that you're seeing have the best engagement or watch time there?
I always structure out my videos the exact same way. And the way it goes is hook, reel, and then answer. So the hook has to happen in like 3 seconds.
Yeah,
It has to be incredibly quick. It is an immediate grab. The idea is there, pardon me. The idea there is that you're opening a loop
yeah,
that they have to
it's
watch the
close.
video in order to close. Yep. And so that's the idea behind the hook. I always spend 90% of my effort on that hook because I know it equates to 90% of my video success. The reel is where you don't give away the sauce immediately.
Yeah.
For example, I will make a hook and then I will tell a story or give an anecdote or maybe introduce myself and say, I'm Nate. I'm a financial advisor for Henry's. Henry's are, we'll get to that in a little bit. I'll continue to tease what Henry's are.
We teased
And
at the
then I'll
opening of
give
the
them the
show.
answer. Exactly. Yeah.
We're going to tell you
Um,
by the end of the show.
Welcome to AFO Wealth Management Forward, a podcast powered by Arrowroot Family Office that's at the intersection of accounting, wealth management, behavioral finance, technology, and entrepreneurship. We help accounting firms and financial advisors grow their practice by going beyond the numbers as we learn from industry leaders and subject matter experts to discover the secret to their success. A podcast that highlights everything from the transformative power of AI to embracing the human-first approach of behavioral finance to help you understand the psychological and emotional relationships to money and meaning. Here is your host, Rory Henry, director at Arrowroot Family Office and author of Holistic Guide to Wealth Management.
All right. Hello, everyone. I have another phenomenal guest joining me today. He has been featured in Forbes, the New York Times, Business Insider, Yahoo Finance, and many more publications for his work with Gen Z and millennials. He has over 226,000 followers on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. He's a nationally recognized financial planner and one of the only advisors working exclusively with Henrys. And we'll discuss what a Henry is. I'm a Henry by last name. So without further ado, let me introduce our guest, Nate Hoskin. Nate, welcome to the show.
Rory, thank you so much for having me on today. It's such a pleasure.
Yeah, buddy, we got a lot of stuff that we can cover here. I want to talk about social media. I know that you have your own practice as well that has a subscription model. But before we kind of get started here, why don't you give our audience a little bit of background on yourself and how you got into the world of financial services?
Absolutely. I got into financial services as like a 12-year-old. Not actually, just in my brain,
Yeah.
because my uncle was working for Capital Group. And so he
Uh,
became my first career model after I was like, oh, I want to be an astronaut or I want to be a cowboy, those kinds of jobs.
yeah.
Once I really started to think about my profession, I wanted to do what he did, but I had no idea what that looked like. Didn't know anything about the industry. And so right when I got into college, I wanted to get started. So I started applying for jobs and I was like, I'll work for free. I'll figure something out. Ended up getting a fantastic job with a little wealth management firm. And yeah, really cut my teeth there working with the ultra wealthy. We were kind of in the high net worth to ultra high net worth space. And then COVID struck.
Yeah.
And I had been the most overemployed college kid I knew all the way up until that point. And I got laid off in the pandemic just a month before graduating college. And so I had to figure out what in the world I wanted to do. And I decided if I was going to be stuck inside, I might as well study for my CFP, get
Yeah.
that done, and start my own company. So now I'm here.
I love it. And I've seen your work on social media. It is fantastic. I do social media. Obviously, I post on LinkedIn, but you're going above and beyond. You have a number of followers here. Let's dive into this social media. And, why did you choose this really as an outreach channel?
Yeah, I got to ride the wave a little bit when it came to social media because we're thinking about those pandemic years.
Yeah.
I had a moment in my business where I didn't really want to cold call and I couldn't do any of those normal advisor outreach strategies. It was far harder to go to networking events or meet with someone
Yeah.
in person to do what I'd been doing for the past 3 years. And so I had to find a different channel and I started to do a lot of research into what are ways that advisors get business. And you can think of the most common recommendations. We're thinking, write a blog, have a really flashy website. I was like, okay, check. Those are done. What else can I do? What's next? And social media stuck out because TikTok was really exploding at the time. So I remember vividly January 1st, 2021, I said, I'm going to make a TikTok account and I'm just going to start posting videos.
Yeah.
And if I have 1,000 followers by June of 2021, I will count that as a runaway win.
Yeah.
Well, by February, I had 50,000. So I kind of blew that goal out of the water.
What was those initial videos that started getting you followers there, Nate?
One of the first ones that really exploded was actually talking about rice and the chessboard. Have you ever heard that story?
Yeah, but for our audience, go ahead and talk about it.
Absolutely. I'll make it as quick as I can.
Yeah.
But long story short, there's an emperor in China, and an advisor comes to him and says, "Hey, I will help you win this war." And long story short, advisor helps him win the war, and he says, "What can I pay you? I'll give you anything in the kingdom to show my appreciation for everything that you've done for me." And he says, "Yeah, absolutely. I want you to take 1 grain of rice, and I want you to put that grain of rice on the first checker on the chessboard. And then I want you to double it when you move to the second one and double it again when you move to the third." Well, the emperor says, "Of course, I can give you rice. That can't be much rice at all." But of course, the accountant for the empire comes back to him and says, "We don't have enough rice in the kingdom to provide him with what he's asked for," because that's the magic of compounding.
Yeah.
If you double something over and over across the number of checkers on a chessboard, you end up with more rice than a kingdom can hold. And that was my video, was just telling that story. And it got over 550,000 views within 44 hours.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, we are living in a short form video world. I saw some of the stats, Nate. It looks like I think it's 96% of consumers prefer to watch short form videos. 89% prefer watch short form videos, either buy a product or service. And then 87% of marketers say short form video marketing has helped drive more sales. Let's talk about this power of short form here, Nate. And maybe what I want to have you touch on is that initial inertia from actually starting to produce those first videos. What are some best practices that you feel for our audience members out there that may be a little cautious or reticent to start doing this?
Are you an accountant looking to generate more revenue and secure your future success as automation and artificial intelligence revolutionize the accounting profession? If so, contact us at AFO Wealth Management Forward. We specialize in helping accountants and advisors just like you build a custom brand to pinpoint your optimal clientele, generate highly qualified leads through our data-driven digital marketing, and execute wealth management growth services to bring more value to your firm and your client's life. Our strategic approach to branding, marketing, and wealth management is carefully tailored to attract ideal clients, increase customer retention rates, and cultivate lasting relationships with clients across generations. Visit wealthmanagementforward.com to book your free consultation to find out how you can elevate your practice.
Yeah. I mean, you've probably seen advisors starting to post short form video. You've seen, if you're on social media, you're seeing that even people selling private jets are blowing up on social media and are actually managing to land sales. So the power is there. Like we're seeing the proof in the pudding, but getting started is tough. Like I'm a naturally very camera shy person. The first video I made, I was so nervous that I was whispering and I was talking very quietly to the camera, and I had to overcome that imposter syndrome, not to mention being a 22-year-old fresh advisor. And so overcoming that inertia came from repetition. The promise that I made to myself was that I was going to make 10 videos before I ever thought about whether they were good, whether I should change the editing, or whether I could ever do anything better. I was just going to do 10. And by the time I had gotten 10 out into the world, I was feeling so much better. I was actually feeling like I was decent at making videos. A lot of that apprehension was gone. And so for any advisor who's thinking about doing it, that's the number one thing I would urge, is just make 10.
Yeah.
And if you can get through 10, you will find that it's far easier than you expect.
Yeah. Let's talk about then the best practices or the technical side of it. I've used ChatGPT to kind of give me a springboard for a script. And then I've used apps like CapCut and Caption to actually have that teleprompter there. They have the AI feature now where it adjusts your eyes. So can you maybe talk about some of the tools that you're using to produce these short form videos?
Absolutely. Setup's pretty simple. I started and spent the first 2 years just filming it on my phone,
Yeah.
no externals whatsoever. I have added a microphone and a couple of light boxes, which has made a huge impact on the success of my videos.
Yeah.
But when we talk about the production process, I think that my secret sauce lives in the scripting and the filming. And so those are the things that I always have my hands in. I'm the one writing the script. I'm the one paying the most attention there, and I'm the one on camera.
Yeah.
Beyond that, I am not an expert. So I made the decision to outsource all of my video editing and my posting. That turned out to be one of the better decisions I've made because it is so time consuming and I am not an expert editor and have no interest in being one.
Yeah.
So from a technical perspective, when we get into the CapCut and that sort of thing, I would outsource the video editing. And the teleprompter is an interesting thing that you bring up because I actually think the best videos live without a teleprompter. And the way that I do that when I'm writing a script is I break it out into 1 sentence or 2 sentence chunks.
Yeah.
And I will sit there and I will film the video. I will memorize one line, turn towards the camera, say that as if I'm having a FaceTime call, as if I'm sitting here talking to you. And then I'll pause, go back and memorize the second line because I can always cut it out in editing.
Yeah.
But what that means is that the final result looks like we are having that FaceTime call. It feels so organic. It doesn't feel staged.
Yeah. I like it. I like it. Now, you know, if you're looking at social media, everybody sees views and likes, and it's that feedback loop that you get that dopamine hit when you see those likes or those views. But how do you actually really gauge success when it comes to your post or your videos here, Nate?
I got really stuck on the likes and views for a long time. I was like, man, if this video didn't get 100,000 views, I failed. It wasn't a good enough video. And it took me a long time to realize that the amount of views that it got or the amount of comments that it got had very little correlation with the amount of people who actually came into my business or scheduled a call with me. That was all reliant on the content. And so as a business owner and as a founder of my own firm, my measure of success has always been how many meetings am I booking?
Yeah.
And so that's the end goal. If I'm booking enough, if I feel like there's enough business flow happening, I don't care how many views I'm receiving. But when we talk about engagement and getting more eyes on target, really the only metric that I look at is watch time. On average, how much of my video did someone watch? Because that is really the only metric the algorithms have to determine whether or not someone is interested.
Yeah.
And so I always try to get that watch time higher.
Yeah. And what are some of the more successful posts for the longest watch time? Or what's, are there hooks involved at the beginning? How are you scripting those videos out that you're seeing have the best engagement or watch time there?
I always structure out my videos the exact same way. And the way it goes is hook, reel, and then answer. So the hook has to happen in like 3 seconds.
Yeah.
It has to be incredibly quick. It is an immediate grab. The idea is there, pardon me. The idea there is that you're opening a loop that they have to watch the video in order to close. Yep. And so that's the idea behind the hook. I always spend 90% of my effort on that hook because I know it equates to 90% of my video success. The reel is where you don't give away the sauce immediately.
Yeah.
For example, I will make a hook and then I will tell a story or give an anecdote or maybe introduce myself and say, I'm Nate. I'm a financial advisor for Henry's. Henry's are. We'll get to that in a little bit. I'll continue to tease what Henry's are.
We tease at the opening of the show.
Exactly. Yeah.
We're going to tell you by the end of the show.
Exactly. You will learn, or someone's Googling it right now, desperately. They're like, I got to know what Henry is.
Yeah. Then they're done with our podcast.
Right. Yeah. They're already out, or maybe it's playing in their ears. Who knows?
Right. Right. Yeah. Cool. So as far as demographics go, obviously younger people are on social media, but this can also apply to older folks there and the older demographics. Are you seeing success with reaching that older audience on these type of channels, Nate?
So much more than I ever could have expected. My favorite example is I've always been really biased thinking that social media is kind of a young kid's game.
Right.
Even when I was starting my business, I was like, oh, the only people who could benefit from this are people my age. But I was in the DMV because I bought a new car. And of course, you're sitting there waiting on the chairs. Everyone's sitting in
Yeah.
line. They've got their number, and you just look around because I'm a people watcher anyways.
Yeah.
And I saw everyone from the ages of 16 getting their driver's license all the way up to it looked like they were getting their eyes checked to see if they were still allowed to drive.
Yeah.
And all of them were scrolling short form video of some sort. I saw TikTok, I saw YouTube Shorts, I saw Facebook Reels. It was everything. And so I know in practice that there are a lot of people of a lot of different age groups.
Yeah.
And then I see it in my demographics with more than 20% of my viewers, I'm a young person making young person content.
Yeah.
It is still 20% of my audience over the age of 55.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, anecdotally, I see my parents on it, my aunt and uncle, they're on Instagram. So, I see the older generation are actively on those platforms. So it's a great way to reach them. All right. Now, as far as let's kind of segue here, because I want to touch on your business model because I'm fascinated with different business models out there. I know most of the financial advisory profession does charge AUM. I know that you have a business model where you're doing a subscription type of offering. So can you share with our audience members out there, what made you choose this type of business model, and how has it been? I know this is a relatively new model for folks out there.
It was definitely required change. I felt like I had changed based on feedback from my clients and people I was interested in working with, because I was AUM for almost 3 years. That I was very much carbon copy of the firm that I left. I was charging pretty much their same fee. I had pretty much the same model. That was my idea. But at the end of the day, I found that on one side, when I'm thinking about it as a business owner, I wanted to work with Henrys, which I can now release. Henrys are high earners, not rich yet.
Yeah.
And the way that I define it is someone's making more than $100,000 a year, but they have less than $500,000 invested. Well, most advisors won't even talk to a client who has less than 500K. And so if you're going to charge a management fee on that, you're not making a lot of money. And I found that I wasn't making enough money to justify the service I really wanted to give to my clients. But I also didn't want to tell them to come back when they were rich.
Yeah.
And so I changed my fee structure. We currently have an upfront planning fee. So we charge anywhere between $2,000 and $3,750 for a 1-month planning period. And then we do a monthly subscription. That monthly subscription ranges from about $79 a month up to $200 a month, depending on what they want. And that includes anything from investment management to tax filing and tax planning, because we actually brought a CPA onto the team, which is something I want to talk to you about a little bit, because I know that you have you just have such a cool approach at looking at the industry, not as a microcosm, but more as something that is designed to be integrated with other financial services like accounting and estate planning.
Yeah.
So that's really the model.
Yeah. I mean, you're speaking my language, Nate. I believe this is the model of the future. It only makes sense as technology continues to advance. These professional services are going to be able to collaborate more effectively. You're doing it with a CPA partner. I think that's fantastic. I love the business model. Let me ask you this, Nate. What are you seeing as those business owner clients that you're having come on board as a differentiator from maybe some of those other firms out there that they may be talking to you? What are they liking about your offering? You have this integrated model and a subscription basis. What do you think's attracting them to your your value add?
That's a really good question. I think the biggest ones I would point out immediately is financial education, because most of these business owners are unbelievably good at what they do. They've clearly learned how to make a lot of money.
Yeah.
They just haven't really figured out how to make money work for them. But they're so smart, so unbelievably sharp. They want to understand it. They just know they don't have the time to become an expert.
Yeah.
And so one of the main differentiators has been that I am always a coach. We are talking about not only what an LLC is or whether or not they should have one, but talking about the applicability, talking about the other options with the intention of teaching it to them rather than trying to make it simple and just tell them this is the one you need. Don't worry about the rest. So education is absolutely front of mind. And then the other piece is that it's a little more scrappy. I don't know if that's a good description. I don't know if that's flattering to me, but It's the type of thing where we will go into a business that just started, but is making multi six figures a year. And we will backtrack and we'll figure out all of their books. And we'll teach them a little bit more about human capital management. What does it look like to have contractors versus have employees? Wherever they need us, we're there. And we've always been adding skills within our team and just within our network to be able to meet them where they're at. And I think they feel like we're very much on their team. They're not just paying for a service, they're paying for a partner.
Yeah. And this is where this team of advisors is so effective. And I see it in our practice here and when I hear in the marketplace, when a client knows that you have a team of people working and helping them grow their business, but also that they have the safety and security, that they have a personal financial plan, knowing that, they have a long-term, outlook on their personal finances is extremely valuable, extremely effective for those, especially for those small business owners who are just starting out. So I think maybe for those in our audience that are listeners, they do advise these small and medium-sized businesses, but being able to pair that with what you're doing, Nate, with a holistic financial plan just provides an added layer of value that they're just not seeing at other places in the marketplace.
Absolutely. And I think that's something we were talking about a little bit before the episode, that there is this weird disconnect where in most cases those business owners do have a CPA or they do have some other sort of service within that network, but they don't have a great dialogue with that
Yeah.
CPA, because the CPA is like, give me your books, I'll do your taxes, I'll tell you if anything broke. And you'll hear from me on April 18th, assuming everything went well, or October if we ended up needing to extend. And
Yeah.
something that I've felt has been so valuable about my practice is that by partnering up with different people, they feel like they actually have a point of contact. And I know that you've done a lot of work with
Yeah.
sort of nurturing a network of CPAs with wealth managers and talking about how those two worlds work together. So what do you see as the main benefits there? We've talked about a couple from my firm specifically, but what about
Yeah.
from a CPA firm?
Yeah. So, I've long argued and I see it here. The CPA is uniquely positioned, Nate, as we've talked about, to take on a more central role in the lives of their clients. So we're seeing the
Yeah.
successful ones starting to do that holistic financial plan because, you know, an investment decision is affected by taxes, right? A person has a small business. Many times, what you just stated, and what I see here as well, their net worth is in that small business, but they also
Yep.
need advice on how to, open up retirement accounts. So, having that first step, but also making sure that they have an estate plan put in place. I call estate planning a family office level of care. They've heard me talk about it a number of times on this episode. When you can start and work from an estate plan and work backwards, you're making sure that you're covering generations here. It's no different than doing an exit plan for a business. So you can then reverse engineer the processes and the decision making that's needed to be made to make sure that they have a successful exit, and then also making sure that their estate is secure and that you're taking care of their family. So it's that peace of mind, knowing that in case of any unforeseen circumstances, their business is okay and then their personal finances is okay. So it's just, I've talked about this a million times on the podcast, but it's really making sure that we can holistically provide for the business and personal needs of that client.
I couldn't agree more. I wonder, and this might be like, I think we stand on different sides here, and I want to know your take on it a
Yeah.
little bit. So I decided to bring on a CPA partner, but a lot of what we've talked about in the past is about having more of a third party partnership or a network partnership. Let's spitball those pros and cons, because what I've found is that having someone in house means that I get to really communicate on the back end with them and ask them a lot of questions so that when I'm speaking with the client, I have all the context. But it
Yeah.
comes with a lot of additional overhead. Like it's a lot more management to have an additional person on staff, an additional person who's contacting clients, that sort of thing. So, what's your take on that?
Yeah. So I always say it's a buy, borrow, build type of scenario for firms out there. I think in essence, you should, if, for many firms out there, the ones that listen to us, if they have the bandwidth there, they should be bringing this in-house. But I say, right, for many of them though, that the partnership model, partnering with a wealth advisor is a good the walking. So I say crawl, walk, run, the ability to crawl is to get started here, start working with an advisor. Then the walking is to really become an IAR, take that Series 65, right?
Yeah.
And then start working with an experienced wealth manager to start advising clients. And then I think the opportunity is just too big of a miss to not have your own RIA in the future for most firms out there. But,
Yeah.
you know, as we have seen here, the accounting profession, you know, is, you know, going through a staffing shortage. You know, you know, they have deadlines that need to be met. So, you know, probably, and what I'm seeing is the partnership model is more advantageous for firms out there, to really to start providing this holistic offering here, Nate.
I agree. And I think there's definitely a business model question in there where it can add a lever of profitability to an accounting firm, or it can add a deadline based or a stickiness component to an advisory firm so that you're on that annual calendar of constantly providing value and staying in their heads. I love it. And I think that's how I would tie this back to social media
Yeah.
is the reason my social media worked. Yes, I was able to nail the content. I believe anyone can nail the content and be extremely, extremely successful on social media. But the reason it turned into business was because I knew my offer and I knew my client.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, being able to build that around them gave them a home to come back to when they decided they wanted to click through and actually check out my profile on my website.
Yeah, well, that's the top of mind, Nate. When you can, because people are scrolling on social media, we talked about that. When you're constantly top of mind, you know, that education part is so huge. They don't worry about, hey, is my advisor working for me? You're working for them because you're educating them on a daily or, you know, 2 times, 3 times a week basis through social media. And so if you can optimize your firm, use technology, and then you're top of mind, and we do year-round planning, it's a wonderful value offering. That's why I love the holistic nature of your business, because they see that you're top of mind, you're doing their taxes, you're doing their financial plan. It's not what you want your client to think a lot, it's how you want them to feel, right?
Yes.
So if they can feel that they have security, knowing that their finances are taken care of and they're top of mind, they're learning, right? That's the value that you can charge for and have those successful relationships that you can build from.
Absolutely. And I can't be more grateful than I already am to be able to provide something like that, because that's why I'm in this business at the end of the day, is that you get those light bulb moments. You
Yeah.
get those moments where they're like, oh my God, I feel so much better. And being able to take those light bulb moments and synthesize them and share them with more people, there's a magic to that gets me up every single morning.
Yeah, and you're like once again, you're educating people that when they learn something, what's an ETF, right? Or what's a SEP IRA, you can save them on taxes. It's that stuff that like people don't know about, and we talked about this before in our other call, Nate. Really synthesizing the complex down into easy digestible topics that are for the layperson that they can understand. Because a lot of times, you know, advisors out there, we have jargon. We just said ETF, right? Was it ETF?
Right. We all
You know,
assume that everyone knows it.
right. And so it's like you could really make it simple for people and dumb it down, and put it in a digestible form. And that's like huge value add. And it takes you what, 5-10 minutes to post a quick video. And if you have something like you have, Nate, and send it out, outsource that and edit it, you know, your clients will absolutely love it.
Yes. And then you can do 5, 6, 7 a week. And that's where I've really started to see some crazy exponential results, is once you nail down that process, you can just move on it. Because I get, this is how I've described it to other advisors. I get 7 dice rolls a week to see if I can get something in front of millions of people. Whereas if I took that week and said, I'm going to write a blog on Friday, or I'm going to make a long form YouTube video, I only get 1 dice roll. And maybe it works. Maybe I get a huge amount of engagement, but it means that every single day something new is going out that can potentially gather 5, 6, 7 million views. And I remember vividly, I deleted TikTok and I deleted all my social medias for a little while because I was burnt out on it.
Yeah.
And I get an email from a client of mine that goes, have you seen your video performance? Like, this thing is blowing up. I was like, oh, I guess I'll re-download Instagram and go check it out. And it was like 1.7 million views. And all of my clients had seen it. All of my clients were texting me about it. They were like, can I do this? Is this something I can do for my small business?
Yeah.
And it just felt like I was so close to them, even though I hadn't sent an email. I hadn't done anything.
Yeah. And you're encouraging your clients too, like you just said. Hey, you have small business clients and you're probably empowering them to start doing videos themselves, to start talking about, their business and helping them do social media selling as well. So, it's that domino effect that can have a huge effect on people.
Yeah. And there's a huge market of influencers who are making crazy money and have no idea what to do with it. And so if they see a short form video of you, chances are you're going to win that business over someone who cold calls them.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. All righty, Nate, this has been so awesome here. Is there anything that you want to share with our audience that we didn't touch on?
I think we're all good to go, Rory. Thank you so much for your time. If anyone wants to get in touch with me, talk short form video, whatever it happens to be, find me on LinkedIn.
Yeah. How about social media? Do you have handles there that they can?
Yep. You can find me at Net Worth Nate.
There
Net
we
Worth
go.
Nate on every single platform if you want to check me out.
Awesome, buddy. I'll put all that stuff in the show notes. I look forward to having you back on in the future.
Sweet. Thank you, Rory. Have a good one.
All opinions expressed by Rob Santos and Rory Henry on this website podcast interview are solely their opinions and do not reflect the opinions of Arrowroot Family Office LLC or their parent company or affiliates, and may have been previously disseminated on television, radio, internet, or another medium. You should not treat any opinion expressed by anyone as a specific inducement to make a particular investment or follow a particular strategy, but only as an expression of their opinions. Past performance is not indicative of future results.